Okay, quick video. Here is a quick definition, new definition that I was thinking about for philosophy itself. And it is that which is held motionless or still in the mind in order to prevent or take action into the physical world. So it's that which the spirit or mind holds to be true while it either engages and extends into an action into the physical world, or that thought that is used to prevent an action or an extension into the physical world. Either way, it's just like a matter of vector and direction. So with that in mind, the philosophy or ideas that are used to allow a person to reach or to improve a person's reach or control into the physical world could be considered to be causative. The philosophies that are used to prevent a person from reaching in general are used to make the person effect. And you can see that philosophy can further be divided up into two compartments: materialism and, non-materialism or spiritualism. This is where a lot of folks confuse science. So a lot of folks use science as a way of making man the effect of information, that another authority is viewed and that he can no longer view for himself or question the validity of or anything, and or achieve any personal understanding, and it has to be the effect of all these thinkers throughout time, like Voltaire or Isaac Newton, or all the Freemasons and all the great founding fathers and all that kind of bullshit, which is total bullshit. And people who don't understand things for themselves seek to validate the opinion of other people who they think did understand something. And so a lot of times people believe in their sacred cow and cannot question certain fundamental things. However, in study, you have to keep boiling down the water to see what is left after the water is boiled down. You have to do it. The studies of people in the past can help you only so much. Eventually, you have to become causative. You have to reach out. You have to observe. There is no substitute for personal understanding. Things are not true just because a doctor says so, just because Isaac Newton says so. They may be true, and he may have been, though they may be along the correct lines, but a person has to observe things for himself. So in this world, we have people being made totally the effect, where they're forced into materialism, where if they see it on the news, they just think that it's true because CNN says it. There has to be a germ theory of disease. There has to be an inflation-based economic system. There has to be an authority. There has to be a central figure who's parasitic on the workforce. There has to be someone in control of the money supply. There has to be cops. All this kind of stuff. There has to be crime. These types of philosophies have pervaded through man's schools and families, and however man learns stuff, and overall vested interests have preferred to make man, ever since the dawn, a long time ago, they didn't want people to figure out that inherently the individual has a lot of potential, because he's hard to control that way. If a person figures out that he's not a piece of mud and that he's more than a one lifetime animal, he no longer fears death. Therefore, he no longer fears you if you try to whip him or scare him or threaten him. And so he's harder to control. But actually, like, you know, all your friends are a lot more fun to be around when they're smarter, personally observing things at a higher level, and more causative, not less materialistic. You know, they're able to reach out into the world, and their philosophies match the results that they can effect out into the world. So they're causative. They're causative of effects. But if you take the average NPC or uninspected datums, for example, germ theory of disease, not saying there's no truth to it, just saying it's completely uninspected by most people, and it's a sacred cow that is particularly, you can tell when somebody has either a sick family member or someone, an authority in their family that is part of the medical fraud. They become, obviously it's hard for them to really look at it, for what it is. And but anyways, so philosophy is what is held still in the mind, of a spirit, or whatever you want to call it, as that's used to either prevent motion or to cause motion. It's what you hold in your mind as you sweep the floor. This is the whole nature of Zen Buddhism, right? And so the guy comes, young Chela comes in, and he's real super pumped up and wants to learn from the master. And the master says, good, sweep the floor. And the master, and then the young Chela goes, oh, I don't want to sweep the floor. He goes, okay, but he goes, all right, fine, I'll sweep the floor. So how long do I have to sweep the floor? He goes, come on, master, I want to learn some cool shit, right? And the master says, oh, you got a lot more to go. You gotta sweep the floor. Well, the big joke in this Zen Buddhism is that you got to sweep the floor until the Chela realizes that he's not sweeping the floor because the master told him to. He's sweeping the floor purely and on his own volition all the time. He never actually needed the master's permission to sweep the floor. And so what the master can do is encourage him to continue sweeping the floor forever, until finally the Chela realizes that the Chela is doing it himself. He's causative. He's in control of his own action. Any other type of education is slave-driven. And, really, without the awareness and realization of information, a person is purely made to become effect and prevent his reaching. So now with this philosophy with this explained, I hope that now, if you look at my opinion on the IFT as far as Bitcoin Cash, that's why I'm not a fan of doing things that puts people at effect, or that restricts options, or, gets rid of competition and all that kind of stuff. Because I think by having options and by having competition, in many ways, you can preserve the causality of people. But if you force them into a corner, I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world, but a philosophy of putting people at effect is generally it's what's already out there in the world. You go to school, you obey, you sit there, you take your Ritalin, and then you graduate, and then you go in. Now that you're, then you up your dose of Ritalin, and then you move into college, right? And then you go into massive debt. So, all right. So let's be clear. That's one way of looking at philosophy itself. Okay, and I wanted that to be real clear. Any philosophy that is designed to make a person the effect of the information can pretty much be discarded. It's generally garbage theory for the most part. Now, people do defend those things, but, they're not based on personal inspection. Okay, thank you very much.